Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Board Game Barbecue podcast brought to you by Advent Games, More Than Meeples, and our Patreons. This is episode 320, and I'm your host today, Dana Banana. And today I am joined by my fellow Brisbane host, Adrian. Hello, Adrian.
Hey, mate, how you doing?
Good. Recovered from the game day?
Yeah, pretty much. I went to work this morning and I dropped off our fellow co-host who's here to the airport, which we'll find out who that is shortly.
And we're joined here by Lauren, who travelled to Brisbane for our game day, and we were so pleased to have her. She was like a celebrity at the game day. Hi, Lauren.
Hey, Adana, you speak too highly. It's just a fiscally irresponsible adult who no longer works Saturdays with too many Qantas points, so I was there. It was an absolute blast. I love the Brisbane Game Day, so I had heaps of fun, and everyone there was super duper awesome.
So this was a last-minute decision by you. I think could have been Thursday night, Friday morning decision. What prompted you to fly up to Brisbane?
I think it was just wanting to get away for a bit, but I think also just not having had the opportunity in recent weeks to have kind of lots and lots of games played back to back. So I was kind of itching for an opportunity to see everyone, and then also just to have a really jam-packed weekend, really get my fill, if that makes sense.
I think it's always good when you travel, like to maybe if you go to PAX or something like that, when you're on your own and maybe you're not traveling with your partner as well, you can just focus on games that you like and things that you want. And it's all a very selfish indulgence. And every now and then you need that.
Oh, yeah, James was having a bit of a sook. He was like, this is the longest we've been apart in our marriage. I was like, mate, it's been a month.
Oh, that's so cute. That's so cute because that would never happen between my husband and I. We would never say those words.
No one knows who your husband is, though, because you never introduce him.
Oh, come on.
It's like an in-joke that Dana didn't introduce Ben to hardly anybody at the start.
Sorry, I was preoccupied, but just so everybody knows, those people who were at the game day, the poor, sad, sorry soul that was behind the library was my husband, and I really appreciated him coming. Actually, his name's Ben, and he's really, I would say, he's a non-gamer. And what was quite funny was that people were saying, "Oh, maybe now that your husband's here, he'll see how great it is, and all the people, how wonderful they are." And he'll want to start playing games. But here's the thing. He was spending a little bit of time in his time off. He was spending a little bit of time with Sigmund and Tristan from More Than Meeples. And he was looking at the prices of the games. And I just went, oh, my God. I gave that signal like where you just want someone to stop, the cutthroat symbol, as if to say, like, I really don't want him looking at this stuff. Can you please just get him away, because I don't want him to know about my crack habit.
That's fair. Cardboard crack is expensive.
But
we actually got to hang out a fair bit over the weekend, which was kind of nice. It was kind of cool. Like, Lauren was there, and all three of us are now recording together, so we can talk a lot about what we got up to and what was happening throughout that day. Finn has now a massive obsession with crokinole, which he calls crokinole for some reason. I think he thinks it's awesome. But he loved it, and he actually taught it to a bunch of other people, even though that was his first time playing it.
That's actually one of my games that I want to talk about and I would love to hear what you thought about as a highlight for you for the Brisbane Game Day. And certainly crokinole was one for me. That was a real highlight, and I'll talk about it later. But what about you, Lauren?
I will say that Finn absolutely rinsed me in crokinole. Absolutely rinsed. There were no survivors. It was just an embarrassment. I think Lachlan, one of the volleys who plays a lot of crokinole, came in and was able to humble Finn a bit because he was riding that high.
Oh, yeah.
I don't think I scored a single point on him, but that was absolutely incredible. Love crokinole.
Yeah, it was lovely to have the two boards next to each other and people play. There was like a mini tournament that was a sign-up thing that people did, which was also awesome. Someone taught me the game. I can't remember the lady's name, but I've played crokinole once, and it was so long ago. I don't have any memory of the rules and how it works. And I've also played another one that's similar to crokinole, that's not crokinole. I think it's called Armour or something, or I can't remember. But
you might.
it was really good to have them together, and they got played a lot. It was constantly getting played, and anyone that walked into that second room was like Finn's victim. He's like, "Do you want to play Crokinole? Can I interest you in Crokinole?" And like they'd sit down and play a little game with him, then move on to another game. So yeah, it was cool. It was really fun.
It was actually always occupied. Whenever I went in that room, there was someone always sitting there just pushing discs around. Even if they actually weren't playing, they were sort of like pushing discs between each other. And I did have a couple of people come up to me saying that after the lesson that they had with Kerry, who was one of our volunteers who taught Crokinole, said that they had actually really improved throughout the course of the day with the lessons and everything like that. And I will talk about Crokinole now, but I actually was so pleased to be able to be there for the actual tournament. Kerry had done up this 8-person tournament, which I think was in like a Swiss system. It was really amazing what she did. She had done up a special tournament sheet, which was almost like a bracket battle where everybody's names were written up, and then whoever won their game went on to the next round. So you could see the progression of each person. As I said, I was there for the final game. The atmosphere was really awesome. Kerry had put, I think I remember hearing Daft Punk on her phone, and she put the phone basically almost on the edge of the Crokinole board. So this music was blasting out as we were watching the 2 finalists play their Crokinole game. And it was so exciting to see people's reaction. Everybody was really invested in this game. And I just thought that, to me, was a highlight because we had not done anything like that before. I think from memory back at Maruka, so the first game day, there was a pitch car tournament, I think. But I don't remember any Crokinole ever having been played at any of the game days.
Done Catan tournaments and a few other little bits along the way, but not Crokinole, no.
But it was really successful, and Kerry's already talking about having additional boards. We have to recruit other people to get additional boards, and it was something I think that everybody could participate in. It was fantastic. It was really wonderful. What about you, Lauren? Tell us about what you loved about the game day.
Oh, I got a lot of little games in. I brought my stack of little Japanese games, and I was very fortunate enough to get a few of them played. The Kickstarter for Yokai Septet just came in recently, which is a trick-taking game that is a 2v2, but has had a 3-player mode added in the Kickstarter, so you can kind of play it more flexibly now. Dan sizzled it previously on the podcast, so I won't talk about it too much. What a game. And the art on it kind of looked like Digimon. Really, really cool. Yeah. Very Japanese looking art. There's not many games in modern board gaming that have team play, right? 2v2 that aren't party games. Obviously, that does exist more in kind of classic trick-taking space. Obviously there's bridge and other team games and things like that. But Yokai Septet, I really love it. You have to love trick-taking, I think, to enjoy it because it's got a lot of the familiar trappings. You're passing 3 cards to your teammate at the beginning of the round, which, you're using to communicate the kinds of stuff you have. You're trying to win the 7s, which are like the yokai, the bosses. But if you win all 4, your team wins. But if you win 7 tricks before you win the 4 yokai, the other team wins. So if you're not winning lots of tricks, if you've got rubbish hands, you can drive the other team to win too many tricks before they kind of pull that off. It's really lovely. It can be really funny. I had an absolute blast playing it. So Yokai Septet, it's now much more available because of the Kickstarter, so you can grab it at retail. Great 2v2. I've not played it 1v1, but the 3-player variant is actually also pretty good.
The people that you taught it to, were they new? Were they new to trick-taking?
No. I think you can enjoy it without being familiar with trick-taking, but, like I've said before in the podcast, I think this is one of those games where you have to understand the genre enough to really get the most out of this game that you can. So that was one that was really good. I played a card game called Subastral. This card game, so good. So good. I played that game, and then I played a game right after called River Valley Glassworks, and I thought, this looks familiar. And it turns out it's actually just a re-implementation of that card game Subastral. River Valley Glassworks being the Kickstarter that fulfilled fairly recently, I think.
It was, yeah.
Comparing the two, I actually prefer the card game. And in my mind, it's not close. I think that River Valley Glassworks is really beautiful, but it's a drop fiddly and it takes away some of the rules and some of the strategy. It kind of smooths it over just a touch in a way that I don't find quite as compelling. And I also think that having the whole game just in a single deck of cards versus a box, I mean, it's not a huge box, but having the same game and the same strategy and the same kind of intrigue in a tight little deck box, for me, it's not even comparable. I would pick Subastral every day of the week, but a lot of people have really liked River Valley Glassworks. They're both really interesting.
Do you think that's because they're drawn in obviously by the art and stuff, so therefore they're willing to give it a go? Then they play the game, enjoy it, and they maybe never even heard of Subastral? Because I remember Subastral. It never blew away BGG or anything like that. It was always a really solid card game, but you never hear about it, right? Like you've only just played it recently. So do you think that's the difference, the point of difference for the games?
I think River Valley Glassworks certainly has more curbside appeal, but I think there are some aspects of the components that limit the gameplay. So, for example, one being a really obvious one that I think it's not particularly colorblind friendly. Another one being that the different, I guess, suits, like the different kind of glass shapes are distinguished as a kind of where you can place them. So in the card game, you place them based on number of the card, which is obviously really clear. But in River Valley Glassworks, you place them based on the shape of the glass. And obviously they're trying to make it look like pieces of glass that you'd take out of a river. And so they have to be kind of rounded and a bit artistic looking, but the shapes aren't very clear. And so sometimes I would, across the table, not really see clearly what the shapes were, or kind of have to double check to see what the shapes were. So I think that in trying to make it something very beautiful, it limited the gameplay for me a little. And then also some of the kind of different ways the organization shifts and the way you play cards in Subastral is different to how you play your pieces in River Valley Glassworks, in a way that I actually think it's a great example of how just changing one or two rules can make or break a game. So I think that's often the case for simpler games. So games like Scout are really similar to lots of other games, but those lots of other games, when you play them, you're like, this isn't as good as Scout. And it's just, those one or two rules tweaks that make it. And for me, those one or two rules tweaks didn't quite land for me in River Valley Glassworks, but I really, really enjoyed Subastral.
Yeah, cool. It's fair. Cool. I haven't played Subastral or River Valley Glassworks as yet, but I know that the people who have played Subastral have spoken very highly of it.
Mm. I think River Valley Glassworks is on BGA, I think.
I believe
from
so.
memory. Yeah, I think it's on BGA. So what about you, Adrian? What did you get up to?
I didn't pledge this game like on a Kickstarter or anything, but it took 5 months to fulfill because I bought a game back on June the 23rd on the marketplace. And I think actually you guys were on the pod when I remembered 3 months after buying it that I had bought it. And that was Condentieri. I had bought it on the marketplace, completely forgotten I'd bought it, and then realized halfway through recording that my game was still at the person's house, even though I'd already paid for it. So I messaged that person as soon as we finished recording, and he's like, yeah, still got it, no problem. And a friend of mine actually lived in the same suburb and went and picked it up. He played it and loved it, but I didn't really hear anything about it. And that was 2 months ago. And I still hadn't picked that game up, and I'd even forgotten about it then until someone came to the game day, not the person that picked it up, but someone else that knew the person who'd picked it up. And he put Condentieri in my hand, and then I was like, what's this? Oh, it's this. I bought this. This is mine. Oh, my God. I'm so useless. And I was very happy to have it in my hands. I'm very excited to play it. It's a phenomenal game. So, yeah, that happened before we even started the day. So that was pretty cool. I got to play Age of Steam with 4 new players and teach them the game, and that was really great, using the little acrylic tiles. Now, I love the acrylic tiles. I love the tactile feel of them. I love them on the board. However, off the board, when they're in stacks on the table, I don't like them that much. I'm going to sound like a moaner, but because they're see-through,
if they see them properly.
Well, if they sit off center of each other, So imagine a hex tile with a straight line going through it, right?
Yeah.
If that hex tile is clicked one segment to the right, that then forms a cross because you can see the layer below.
Yes.
So it just looks unappealing. And then you're like, oh, is that a crossroads? Is that the crossroad tile? Oh, no, that's just a straight. That's not the right way around. And I don't stack the tiles in a straight pile or anything. I'm just a bit chaos.
You're a mess.
So I think, yes, I'm definitely a mess. So I think what I'll do is I will put them in like a dish or something and then just have the type of tile that it is in front of that dish. So therefore you can kind of alleviate any confusion and you know exactly what those tiles are. But I got to teach that and that was fun. Everyone really enjoyed it. It's a funny thing when you're teaching a game like that because if you don't like it and you're 40 minutes in to a game that's like 2 hours, 2 and a bit hours with the teach, it is a bit of a concern because you're like, man, these people hate this game and it's not great. But they all really enjoyed it, so that was fantastic. They also got to play Seas of Strife with Ethan, which was brilliant. I haven't played many games with Ethan, but he's such a lovely, awesome, genuine guy, and it's always amazing to see him at things like PAX and PlayCon and all these other things. But to sit down and play a game with him was great. And it was a really fun game because I don't know if anyone's aware, but in Seas of Strife, it's basically a trick-taking game where depending on what cards get played and what suits are out there, the suit can change. So the trump can change and you can really mess with the table. And it was great. Absolutely had a blast, lots of laughs, awesome game. Fantastic time. Then I got to play Chaos Order with my KDM group with my brothers, Haig, G-Money, and Matt Woods. It was great. And unfortunately, Haig took the win, as we knew. And even like, to be honest, like we did the teach, right? And then we did a few other little bits and it became, Haig was like, I need to go get a drink or go to the bathroom, whether, and stood up. And then G-Money was like, oh, but what about this thing? And then Haig was like, no, because I got this and this and this, blah, blah, blah. So he'd already completely mapped out what was going on. And me and G-Money looked at each other to say like, oh, righto, it's going to be like this. And it was. But it was brilliant fun. I had a great time. I would play that game in a heartbeat again with the same group. Like I would love to keep playing with them on a quasi-regular basis every few months or something, give a game of that because it is just such a fun game. And the faction that I played, the green faction, I actually just did so badly with that I really need to redeem myself by playing them again and really getting into their asymmetry because I didn't exploit that enough. I was really stale throughout the whole game.
The times that I played Chaos Order, that faction, and the name's escaping me, is the only one I've ever won with because it's the kind of faction that if people let you kind of just run away with it, that you can become really, really, really powerful. But I had a lot of fun playing that faction. So give it a go again. Let me know your thoughts.
Yeah. Oh, I can see the abilities in that, but I can't see the matrix. Like I was just not doing well, but I need to be Neo, not, the little boy with a spoon. Like I need to be Neo. So yeah, it was good. I loved it. And I love playing that game. So
another game that I played at the game day, which was a game that Matt Woods was teaching, which has quite the table presence, is a game called Survive the Island. It's a game about jostling for position on an island, trying to get your little guys into rafts and moving them off to safety on the shores before the island falls apart or people move around sharks and Godzillas and all sorts of things to get you and stomp out your guys. So you'll start with a bunch of different kind of numbered guys that you're going to be worth various amounts of points if you are able to get them off to safety, and you're going to litter them across the island, and then that island is slowly going to disappear. First the sand's going to disappear, and then the forest, and then the mountains. But each turn you're moving your guys around, but also rolling dice which could just have chaos ensue. That could be moving a shark onto someone to gobble someone up, or moving the Godzilla. But when you flip the island tiles as well, you remove them. And so I don't have to remove tiles on my turn that my guys are on. I could remove tiles that have Finn's guys on them. And all of a sudden, they're swimming and they can't move as fast, and that shark is steadily approaching. It is very fun and funny. It's very mean if you let it be. I think in the game we were playing, I was trying to push and goat people to be meaner, and that just had me and Finn going at each other. Just
I have to say, like, I'm not just proud that he just went on his own, played a game with a different group. I know that Steve Miller, one of our patrons, is in that game, so it's kind of cool to see Finn playing with one of our patrons, and obviously yourself, Lauren, who he knows well, and Matt Woods, and a couple of other strangers he doesn't know. But I was very proud that he could handle it. Like, he could handle you picking at him to try and incite chaos. He didn't just lose it and get in a strop over it. Do you know what I mean? Because it's quite hard to be in front of strangers getting picked on by, someone who's in their 30s when you're 9. I'm sure it made you feel great though, right?
You know what's funny is I felt like everyone was being a bit too Care Bear at the beginning of that game.
Yeah.
Kind of, I'll flip a tile and remove it that has no guys on it, or just mine, or this or that. And I thought that's not what this game is about. And so I just did a turn that was so mean to Finn. And I felt like the other adults on the table, like, oh my God, she's doing this to a 9-year-old. What is she doing? But I thought, nah, he can take it and he's going to dish it back. Finn, let's go.
Yeah.
And I just tried to amp him up to get him to do it as well. And it was just a blast. It's got great table presence. I will say that some of the pieces can be a little fiddly, especially if you're trying to reach into the center of the board to flip over a cardboard tile. It's hard to not knock things over, and you don't want to knock the guys over because it has the number of points on the bottom, which at the beginning you're seeding out, but it becomes a bit of a memory thing. You're trying to remember where your number 5s are because those are the ones you want to prioritize getting off the island. But if they knock over, it ruins that aspect of it just a little, because I thought, Adrian's 5 is here, I'll send the shark over there.
And it turns out apparently being mean works because you won the game and Finn came second. So that's it, right? Be mean, get wins.
Be mean, get wins. Jules would be so proud.
I also got to see Ben Todd and Lauren do a speed run on Windmill Valley, which was quite impressive.
Oh.
It was like, those video games where they do speed runs? You basically did a Windmill Valley version of like trying to complete Mario in 6 minutes.
We got a 3-player game of Windmill Valley done in just under an hour. And that was with kind of a gentle reminder of teach for the guy we were playing with, Sam, because he had a game of Black Rose Wars to get to. And we had an hour, and we're like, right, I'd start my turn. I'd place my thing here. All right, I'm choosing a card. Yep, Sam, you go. I'll just decide this doesn't affect you. Off you go. And it was just on. I don't think I did very well, but it was certainly fun. It was certainly kind of
intense.
It was intense.
Yeah.
It is definitely kind of a fun challenge sometimes just to see games that do have, point salad and lots of combos and definitely action, efficiency, and optimization that you're trying to chase. To do that really quickly actually makes it quite funny, but also it becomes a very interesting challenge and puzzle. Yeah, that was an absolute laugh. That was great.
That's awesome.
You and I, Adie, we got to play a few games together as well on the Sunday.
Yeah, so post game day, we had arranged for Dana to come around in the morning and said, look, if you want to come for breakfast, you're more welcome. But obviously we were running until like 2 a.m. So, we saw Dana at about 11 o'clock. But Dana looked so hungover. Sorry, Dana. You look tired.
Yeah.
No. I just mean game day hangover. Like too many games and too late at night and then an early morning and then we're back into it again because obviously that's what we do best. Playing more games the day after playing a load of games. So, yeah, we started off the day with Mini Express, I think, didn't we? We waited for everybody and we played Mini Express.
Mini Express.
That was the first one. And it was actually nice to see how much Lauren enjoyed it. So I'll let you take away there, Lauren, because I love the game. I've played it multiple times. I think it's brilliant.
Yeah, you've sizzled this game before, 80, but it's a cube rail game, right? I prefer that genre way more, I think, to 18xx games. We were talking about this a little the other day, but it gives me all of the feeling I would want out of an 18xx, but it's compact into an hour. I can engage in stock manipulation. I have to consider other people's competing interests. We're engaging with shared resources on a shared board. All of those things just scratch a really particular itch for me. A few of the things that I love about Mini Express, one of them is that the cost of the shares is determined by how many trains are available in the little bank there to place. And so there's this lovely push your luck, or almost a case of just waiting it out. And you and I, Adrian, there was one, I think it was the wood or the brown trains that I was just waiting for someone else to place the train so I could buy the share cheap. Or I don't want to place trains, even though that's going to be good for me because it's going to drive up the price of the shares.
And someone else will steal that share anyway.
Then someone's going to get that share for super cheap. So it's constant to and fro where you're considering other people. There's also just ways you have to read people. I have to think, what's Dana going to do next? Can I hold out another round, or is she going to place a train there and gobble up that bonus that I can't get anymore? But it also, there's enough flexibility in the game that it lets you play waiting turns. I'm just going to place one train, get one bonus, hold it out, and just wait and see what happens. It was so good. I really want to play it again. I don't have to own it because Harry owns it, but your version has lovely, lovely wooden bits. Yeah. All the stocks and the pieces, which I can't get. You've dangled the carrot, Adrian. I can't have those. I've got to have this garbage punch board that, what am I, a peasant?
Yeah, they're like chips, like a potato chip. Do you know what I mean? Like they're kind of like a wafer.
Plastic.
Like
is it plastic?
No, they're wooden.
Like a heavy, is it wood? Oh,
they're all wooden.
Plastic.
Yeah, they're all wooden. Okay. And they're light, and they kind of like, when you sort of roll them in your fingers, like, you do with chips and stuff, they make a really nice sort of clinky noise, but not like a poker chip. Because a poker chip is plastic, has weight, but these are like a light. Yeah, they're just great. They're just so overproduced, but who cares? It's great.
And that's what you're doing in this game. You're sitting kind of fiddling with your shares, just assessing the map, waiting for your turn. So you just need something tactile to play with. Was awesome.
It's just a super solid game. And the only reason why I bought all of the fancy bits is because it's a game that I'm going to keep forever. So much like the acrylic tiles for Age of Steam, I will never sell Age of Steam, and I will never sell Mini Express. It will always stay with my collection. So therefore, I'm happy to pay the money to have those bits, because whenever I play it, it is like a luxury experience, and it does elevate the game. Because, I mean, Lauren, you were very impressed with the bits. You're like, oh my God, these bits are lovely. So, yeah.
I was talking about them all day. Couldn't get enough of them. I will say, though, there's something to be said as well about a cube rails game that is beautiful to look at or lovely to hold, because a lot of them have a reputation for looking like prototypes that are done on poster board with solid colored cubes, and they get the job done, and they have really interesting mechanisms, and that almost makes the barrier to entry lower for designers, because you don't need to worry about crazy production. Everyone can engage with the system, mess with it, and make a game. You don't have to have an artist, you don't have to have this. But sometimes it is really nice to have a lovely production. And for that genre, I've not seen anything that looks nearly as good.
Yeah, 100% agree with that. And I was talking to you about how the solo works and how you can use a third player as well when you're playing with two and stuff like that. I literally taught you how to do it in the off turn. It's like you draw that thing out, you move it, you place trains trying to get to a particular station that it's trying to point at, job done, next. And it's very quick. So it's just a great game. I'm really glad you enjoyed it. I'd like to know what Dana thought, though, because I don't think Dana had the same vibes.
I don't think I took in any of it at all. I was extremely tired playing the two games that we did play. I preferred, Mini Express to the second game that we played, which was Bus. I only sort of really got the hang of it towards the end, and look, that was just due to my lack of attention. I'm just not attracted to those games. I will agree with you, Lauren, that normally those games are so bland looking that I wouldn't even give it a second look. And it wasn't that. It certainly wasn't that. So, but it's probably stocks and shares in games don't appeal to me. I have no sense of money at all. I've got nothing. That's why I don't want my husband involved in gaming, because I just have no idea what things are valued at. I don't get it for some reason. So it's not my kind of thing. But yeah.
We'll tell them to put that on the box. Not ugly, quote, banana, board game barbecue.
No. Oh, that's so true. Yeah.
It was great. If I played this more, it's an easy top 50 game for me. I thought it was outstanding.
Nice.
Well, I have not been playing many games, and I don't know what it is, but it's almost like since I joined the board game barbecue, I'm playing less games than what I was before. So I don't know what is going on. Or if I do play games, I play like a lot, and I'm always thinking about, what have I got to talk about? I've got to talk about something. But lately, I've just been hanging around with myself in front of the telly, and I got my hands on a little card game called Grove. I think, Lauren, you said you may have played it.
Yes, I've played all three in the series, which is Orchid, Forage, and Grove. But I'll let you talk about them because I think I've talked about them on the pod before.
Yeah, so I got to play Grove, and it's just a deck of 18 cards, and you split the deck into two decks of 9. And the idea is that you play one round with your 9 cards, and then you play your second game with the other 9 cards. So you have 2 games in a row. It's sort of designed for that. What you do is you have your deck of 9 cards and you draw 2 cards, and then on your turn, you're going to place 1 card and then draw another card back up to your hand of 2 and then place another card until all the 9 cards are placed. The idea is that on these cards, there are different bushes with fruit on them. So there's like lemons. I don't actually know what the fruit are. Lemons, probably red apples or something, and some kind of green fruit. Anyway, yellow, red, green fruit. You are trying to overlap your cards with the same coloured fruit. Actually, you can't place a card unless the fruit is the same colour as what's on the bottom. What you want to do is you want to try and be able to place dice on top of these cards, and you do that by placing the same colour fruit. So if I place a 1 red fruit and I place a 2 red fruit on top, then I will place a number 3 die, adding the 1 and the 2 together, and I'm trying to get the highest numbers on these die in the 9 cards that I place. And there's a scale of how poorly you did to how well you did. And so if your die, for example, if you place over a number 6 die, obviously the die doesn't go any further than a 6. Well, the die then turns into a basket, and it actually turns into a 10. And then if you can place another card over a basket, it turns into a wheelbarrow, and that will give you 15 fruit. So you're really just trying to place these cards all on top of each other, if at all possible. You also have like a little squirrel, which is pretty cute, and you've got 1 squirrel that you can place once, and he will allow you to place on 2 different fruits on top of each other, but you'll get negative points for all the dice around you plus the squirrel. To me, it's amazing that someone can create a game out of 9 cards. But it was this is the kind of game that I actually leave it on my coffee table. It's only a very small box, but I just leave it on my coffee table, and when I'm sort of not really concentrating on television or something like that, I will sit there and I'll get it out and I'll play it. You could play it very easily on an airplane tray table. It's it has a very small footprint. You can also, they've got like a little, I guess it's an expansion or a different mode as well, where on the backs of the cards there are recipes. With the recipes, it might give you a win condition for lemons or something like that. So you can play that differently so that you're not just trying to beat your score all the time. And you can actually play it multiplayer, where you need 2 copies of the game, which I bought, and one person, each card is actually numbered. And so one person just draws out a card, and the other player will draw out the same cards. And so you're always placing the same cards but separately in your grove, and then you'll score them separately, and whoever scores the most points is the winner. I would love to have like a little set of games or whatever just sitting on my coffee table whether it's a talking point, but also just to grab out in a quick 10 minutes or something like that. But yeah, that was Grove. It's called Grove, a 9-card solitaire game. That's actually what it's called. So yeah, it's a really lovely game.
One thing that we did get to play as well this weekend before Dino arrived post game day morning, we got to play Landmarks.
Here we go.
I like it, Landmarks, right? But after playing it quite a few times, I definitely prefer So Clover and code names. Now, hear me out. I don't like in the game where essentially for people that know the game, you're giving word clues on hexagonal tiles that sort of lead people along a path on an island. Now, there gets to a point where when you're branching off one of those hexagonal tiles to give clues, you're sort of surrounded by traps and other things that no one else knows where those things are apart from the clue giver. You have to give a clue because you're surrounded by traps and other obstacles on the island that basically allows you to give a one-word clue to a hexagonal, to a part of the next hex that will connect to it. But basically, you're giving a 50-50 shot on what it will be. Because you're branching out, is it the top part of the hex or is it the diagonal right part of the hex? And that was my main problem with the game. And I'm not one to be a much of a moaner, but for me, that...
Come on, you know you are.
I know, sorry. In my private time, that's all I do is moan. But I didn't enjoy that aspect of it. I don't like the 50-50 kind of, is it this, is it that? Oh, we'll try this one because why not? And then, it's not that one. And in the rules, it specifically says that you cannot lead people with clues that potentially will lure them into a north and a south or a left and a right as an example. So as a prime example, say you had the clue apple, you might do apple crust, like for apple pie, the crust of the pie is at the top of the pie so that they're going to go up, right? As opposed to maybe you could do apple, I don't know.
Core.
As the next clue, say again?
Core. I don't know.
Yeah, core of the, maybe even core might be the middle. So they're like, okay, well, top of the hex, it's not bottom of the hex, it must be the middle part. So we're going to go off into the middle because it's core. As that's a very loose example of some of the things that you can't do. But I think that as a house rule, you should be allowed to do that. And I feel that Lauren might have the same opinion, but she can explain it far better than I can.
The things that are cool about this game is that you do have to consider, it's almost like a managing resources with your stack of tiles, and you've got to think, which direction can I go because I can't get all the way to the water, I'm going to run out. And in the context of that being such an important part of the game, there's not really a lot of freedom to go, it doesn't matter if it's top, middle, or bottom, just, crapshoot, it wasn't the top, let's go for the middle, because you just burn through tiles and it really shapes and changes the way the game shakes out. Okay, well, now we've only got 3 tiles left. We have to rush to water to get more tiles so we can kind of get towards the exit. So I definitely agree. I think the rules as written say that what we were doing we couldn't do, but I feel like if the clue is still fundamentally still related to the meaning of the word, other stuff around that should be able to be incorporated, meaning I don't think that you could give a clue that is, up. But you should be able to give a clue like crust, which still relates fundamentally to apple, but there's additional meanings in there. And I think that's the thing that I really liked about it.
But you can give a clue like crust, can't you?
Well, it says that you can't give clues pertaining to the direction on the board or the number of letters and things like that. So theoretically, how we're interpreting it, you can't do that.
I don't think that's what the spirit of the game is designed for. Just based on when it was taught to us at PAX, and we played it with Joe, I think that crust is acceptable.
Right. Well, if that's the case, then that I think needs to be taught. That's almost kind of something you need to front up when you teach people the game, to say you could do things like this, because otherwise, 80's right. It is arbitrary. I thought the game was really cool. Even I like things, it's reading the person. Okay, I had to take 80 and MJ through a trap, but that was my intention. I wanted them to go on the trap because we had to get to the water next to it, but they got a trap and they thought, shoot, this isn't where she wanted us to go. It must be somewhere else. So there's kind of an interesting bit to that. But for me, it's not a Codenames killer, which people are saying. It's not as good as Codenames, and it's not as good as So Clever. I mean, no word game is as good as Codenames. It's the best word game ever made. But So Clever is, which I think is second, pips it for sure.
regardless to the fact that if you're allowed to give a clue that links to a particular thing or not, I feel that there is, whenever you're branching out from a hex and you have those two options, I feel that is very hard to interpret, right? So as an example, crust, it could be the top, it could be the top right, because there's that's where the hex is sitting, right? It could be the very top of the hex, or it could be diagonally up to the right of the hex. So you have to, let's say, build out another clue, right, to then lock it into the top one because that's where you want it, or build out another clue to the left so that no one puts it directly above. They do go to the top right because apple and chair doesn't go with crust, right? Now, let's say that chair clue to the top left of the apple is on a trap or on a curse or on something negative. Why would you want to do that? Do you know what I mean? You have to take negative effects to then try and get them to get one clue and not have a 50-50 shot at it. For me, I didn't enjoy that aspect. And maybe I'm overthinking it too much. But yeah, that was something I came stuck with. That was like, I don't like that. And it's not that it's happened in one game. It's happened in multiple games. Someone holds that tile in their hands and says, it could be here, it could be there. Oh, I don't really know. Let's just put it here and try. And it's a 50-50 shot. And it happened in our game with MJ.
Mm-mm.
So it does happen.
I actually think that's okay, and it sort of plays into the theme a little bit. I think sometimes you might just sort of say, okay, let's try this way. And that's actually quite reasonable. And even in plenty of other games, there's always some element of chance in it. And I don't know, for me, when I play that game, I just feel like it's extremely clever. And this could be because maybe my vocabulary isn't great. And so when I play code names, I feel completely stupid in that game. It makes me feel completely stupid.
But that's the thing,
I don't
right?
feel like that in landmarks. I feel like there's a chance.
But that's the thing, right? Word games at their essence are all about coming up with clever associations and clever links and having these moments of just being on the same wavelength as someone. And So Clover and Codenames are that feeling distilled, right? That I get, Adrian, you just got it done. You know exactly where I'm at. You know that it means this. It can't be this because otherwise she would have said that. All these sorts of things. And you come up with these really creative clues or really just the exact right word that gets people on your wavelength and then they get it. The 50-50s that 80 is describing, for me, undercut that feeling. They really undermine that feeling. Well, I gave a great clue, but so what? It doesn't matter because we got the wrong way. I still think it's a really good game. I really enjoy it. But I think it does need some, if we're interpreting the rules incorrectly, it needs some house rules, or it needs those kinds of things set explicitly so that people know to play with that kind of intention.
You need to play with Joe as the clue giver. He was amazing. I think we covered the entire map almost, like with a few little, I've got a photograph of it, just with a few little gaps. But, he was determined that we would get all the treasure, and it was pretty amazing. So it was a great experience that I had anyway.
It's good.
So that's Landmarks.
We also got to play a game which was on an old oath of mine a long time ago, and that was Leiden 1593. It's basically like a tulip manufacturing garden growing, and you're placing out these different cards to build out your tulip plantation and export those tulips and hire artisans that do different abilities. And it's a Japanese game. All the rules are in Japanese, but there is an English rule set on BGG, which was what me and Lauren had to use to play it because we were using our phones to read the rule books. And it was a very good rule book. Actually, I'll say that. It was a very good translation, very clear, very concise. However, on the phone and moving from page to page is a little bit clunky. So I think I'll print the rule book out because it will just be a much easier read. And there is a player aid, which would actually really help the game. But for a little sort of 45-minute game, kind of small kind of economics games where you're sort of pushing up the prices of certain tulips, being it red, yellow, blue, navy blue, and white, I thought it was great. I really enjoyed it. It was really interesting. There's also sort of an area majority thing with the cards, and there's also, just lots of little wrinkles in that game where the way you lay the cards on top of each other, you can't cover an entire card, which leaves little gaps, but then also the cost of cards, the costs of laying buildings and upgrading buildings is to do with the amount of colors surrounding your buildings, so that when you overlay these cards, that can be really problematic because it can make upgrading buildings expensive, and you have like an area majority around windmills that you need to build close to windmills, and it's really hard to build windmills because you need a gap in the cards, and it was just really good. I was pleasantly surprised at how good it was and how much I enjoyed it. I think I paid like $25 for this in Japan, and I didn't know nothing about it. Zero. All I did was Google Leiden 1593 rulebook English. It came up and I purchased it. That was as far as my knowledge went, and I was very happy with that purchase. So what do you think, Lauren?
Agreed. That game is proper good. The card, your hand management of trying to make sure that you had the right colors to place the buildings when you needed to, but also wanting to place those colors because that's also going to drive up the price of those particular colors where your buildings are on. And that, back and fro was really, really interesting. And I think even at a higher player count, because it goes up to 5, would be really fascinating and really dynamic. But you'll cover the cards, and that will cover particular colors, and that drives up the stock price. But like you said, Eddie, when parts of a card are covered, the buildings there are then more expensive. And you're paying with buildings also with cards and additional cards. So there's lots of interesting hand management, lots of interesting market manipulation. There's also some cool bonus powers, and there's ways that the scoring varies between games enough that you could play it a few times and the strategies would be different. So I really, really liked it as well.
Yeah, it's really good. And I like the art style of the artisans and those cards. The
old-timey photos.
Yeah, the old-timey photos were really cool. And it's like a black and white box, and it shows like a tulip plantation on it and stuff. But the actual card art to the tulip plantations, very basic, very bright colors so you can understand. And they're actually like sections off as grids. So it's a 6x6 on the actual, a 2x3 on the actual card, so it has 6 spaces. So it just needs to be really clear so it's easy for playability and playing the game. But I was really pleasantly surprised at how good it was and how much I enjoyed it. I think MJ will really dig it as well when we get a chance to play it. So.
Hi there, it's Dana Banana from the Board Game Barbecue, and if you listen to the podcast, you'll know that I love a new board game smell. So when I'm in need of a new aroma, the best place to go is to head to Advent Games. They have a huge range of games from pre-orders to in-stock games. Actually, I don't think there's a store that can match their variety. Dean, the owner, is fantastic, and if I'm after a particular game, he's always so responsive. So if you're after a new board game smell, make sure you go to adventgames.com.au. So I have been looking forward to Sizzling, and I think we should go into the sizzles now, but I was really looking forward to Sizzling this game. I only just played it recently. It's a 2-player game called Lord of the Rings Duel for Middle-earth. And actually, we only just got this into the Board Game Barbecue library, and it was taught at the Brisbane Game Day. And it's a re-implementation of the Seven Wonders Duel. So I'm not sure if either of you have ever played Seven Wonders Duel.
Well, I was really excited to play Seven Wonders Architects, but someone absolutely dogged all over it just before we were about to play. Someone was like, nah. It's awful. No, not playing that.
Oh, sorry. But hey, you two could have played it. But I'm just saying it's rubbish. I don't like it.
Wow. Okay, I'm out. It's been nice.
Sorry, it's just boring. It's just very boring to me.
It's simple. It's so light. Simple. Really low barrier to entry draft to get. I know this is your sizzle down, but I feel very strongly about this. All right, sorry, go ahead. Lord of the Rings Duel.
Yeah, so Lord of the Rings Duel. So one player plays the Fellowship of the Ring, and you play Sam and Frodo, and the other player plays the Dark Lord Sauron. It takes place over 3 chapters, similar to Lord of the Rings Duel, similar to Seven Wonders Duel. If you have played Seven Wonders Duel, you will certainly recognise the DNA in this, but the theme is certainly different. There are a few changes. It takes no time at all to set it up and put it on the table. It's a very easy teach, and you can play it in about 20 to 30 minutes. I think 20 minutes if you knew the rules and you didn't have to explain the rules. But it takes place over 3 chapters. On your turn, you can do 2 actions. You can take a card or take a landmark tile. So at the start of each chapter, you're going to build a pyramid of cards, and it's really wonderful because the box actually has the patterns that you have to build printed on the side of the box so that you don't have to look through the rule book for these things. But it's sort of like a pyramid pattern, and you might have 2 cards face up, 3 cards face down, 4 cards face up in a pyramid shape, and the shapes vary between the chapters. Also on the table, you also have a map with different regions, and so there's a little bit of area control in this. Sauron will start with 2 units in Mordor, and then you'll have the Fellowship start with 2 units in Arnor, and there are 7 regions in total on the map. And then also, so you've got this pyramid of cards, you've got that map, and then you also have this really interesting track. And this track is meant to be your pathway to Mount Doom. What happens is that it's on basically like on an acrylic overlay, and this track slides left to right along a cardboard track underneath. And that signifies Sam and Frodo's progress towards Mount Doom. And then there's a second acrylic piece that sits on top, and that moves the track. That moves along the track also. And this signifies the Nazgul for Sauron are trying to catch Sam and Frodo. So there are no points scored in this. So if you play as the Fellowship, you can win in 3 ways. You can either catch Sam and Frodo before they get to Mount Doom. You can collect 6 different race cards, which in Seven Wonders Duel terms are the green cards. Or you can have presence in all 7 regions on the map. The same if you're playing as Sauron, your job is to catch Sam and Frodo, have presence in 7 places on the map, and also collecting all 6 race cards. So as I said, on your turn, you're going to be taking a card or a landmark. That's all you can do on your turn. And I guess for those of you who aren't familiar with Seven Wonders Duel, because of the way the cards are laid out, you'll have cards that are face up that are covering other cards, or cards that are face up or face down. They're covering other cards partially. So you can only take cards that you have access to, that you can freely take from the pyramid. And there are various different cards. The cards in the first chapter are sort of setting yourself up with when I say it's not resources, it's really tags for the remainder of the game, so that you can buy other cards and you can buy landmark tiles. So that's sort of really what you're collecting. And also there will be some cards that will help you move along this track, the acrylic track that I mentioned. In chapter 2, those cards just become a little bit more powerful, and you start really placing units out onto the map a little bit more often. You will then be able to start collecting these green symbols on green cards, and if you collect 2 symbols of the same type, you get to pick up a bonus tile, or if you get symbols of 3 different types, you also get to collect a bonus tile. And these bonus tiles are extremely powerful.
You mentioned a bunch about, at the start, Sauron and Samwise and Frodo and the Fellowship versus sort of Mordor. Are you a big Lord of the Rings fan, and does it evoke any kind of thematic feel for someone that may be a Lord of the Rings fan?
I wouldn't say that I am a fan. I enjoy the franchise, but I wouldn't call myself a fan. And I would say that this gives me a thematic satisfaction more than Seven Wonders Duel. But is this the same as Lord of the Rings?
More the Ring.
Journeys into Middle Earth?
Yeah.
No,
Yeah.
it's not that. It's not that as well. So, yeah. So the second chapter will give you a little bit more, but most of the time you are going to resolve this game in the third chapter. When I have played it, I have not had a resolution in the second chapter at all. It's normally the third chapter. And so the third chapter is where, if you're going to be collecting those symbols on the green cards, that final symbol only appears in the third chapter. So unless you're collecting bonus tiles that maybe have an additional symbol on it or something like that. But that third chapter is a real push and pull of you really want this card, but you notice that your opponent has 6 units on the map. So you really need to take a card that you don't necessarily want so that you can just remove some of the units on that map so that they don't win. And it's a real, it's mind games. It's sort of like as you're playing, you're thinking, choices. What is my opponent really wanting, and what can I take from them? And I thought that third chapter was really wonderful. And I would say that Seven Wonders Duel is a great game, and it is much better with the Pantheon expansion, because without that, you're sort of, one complaint about Seven Wonders Duel, sometimes you're just left with no other choice but to grab a card, a crappy card, and leave a card for someone else. There's no choice. But here it allows you to have an additional action, which is get a landmark tile, so that you're not forced to take this card and open up something for your opponent. So it gives you options. And normally with Seven Wonders Duel, it gives you that option with the expansion. But I thought it was a great duel between 2 people for a game that can be played in 20 minutes. It's very streamlined, and the artwork is delightful, actually. It's by Vincent Dutrait. So I certainly prefer the theme and the artwork to Seven Wonders Duel, and I actually thought the iconography was a lot clearer in this version as well. I really enjoyed the map part of it, where you're trying to place troops or fortresses on this map. That was the best part of it for me. That was something really different, and I really enjoyed it.
And yet it doesn't hold a candle to Seven Wonders Architects.
Oh my God, that game! Why would you even have it? Oh, and anyway, well, this is a topic for a YouTube video, Lauren.
It was pretty amazing. We punched it. We were quite excited to play it. You walked in and were like, "Dear God, no!" And we put it away, and that was the rest of the day. Like, it was gone.
You didn't even play it. I thought you played it.
No, we didn't have time.
I saw you punching it, and I thought you had played it. Oh, yeah. There you go.
You thought we played it before we punched it.
Yeah.
No. I saw you punching it when I walked in, and I thought afterwards you were going to play it. So
no, it was the projectile vomiting that you did in the bin that made me not want to play it. You're like, I'm not playing that. So I was like, nah, I'm done. I'm out. I trust you.
All right, Dana. Seven Wonders Duel with the expansion, or Lord of the Rings Duel, which is better?
Lord of the Rings Duel for me, but that's because I prefer that theme. I prefer the theme, and I just think it's easier to teach, and I enjoy it. That's why. But I think that they're comparable. If you had Seven Wonders Duel with the expansions, you probably might not feel the need to get it, but I enjoyed it. I really enjoyed it.
Real.
Mm.
Well, I'll take us away with the other sizzle for this pod, which is a game that has been sizzled on this pod twice before, but I don't care. I'm sizzling it again. And that is a Splotter game called Bus, which Dana played as well. Played with Dana, Adi, MJ, and Finn. And I've played this game a number of times. To date, I've said that Food Chain Magnate is my favorite Splotter game, and I still think that's true for now. But there is something to be said about how rules light Bus is relative to the other Splotter games. The game underneath Food Chain Magnate, you need a solid 45 minutes to teach, really, realistically. But Splotter, that's just kind of always the case. Bus, the rules are like 6 pages, 5 pages. The game is just so brain-burny and so engaging and interactive. You're trying to build bus routes, put out workers, send those workers, people, to locations on your bus routes so that you can score points. But you can do things to just ruffle people's feathers and mess with other people. So, Dana, maybe this is not the game for you, given that we've just spoken about Survive the Island, where
I got
you guys
there,
were just...
I was so tired, and it was just 2 games where people were just stepping on each other's toes. It was just, ugh.
We offered you Seven Wonders Architects. We offered you Seven Wonders Architects when you first got there. And your
you had your
complaint
chance, mate.
was that it was boring because there was no game there. And we said, right, Dana, you want game, we'll give you game. And then you complain when we give you game.
And technically you were right. They are sometimes workers because they're going to work. So you can keep that.
Unlike in our game, though, where everyone was just hanging out at the bar, non-stop at the bar.
Yeah, 100%.
Stop in time, we're still at the bar. Because that's the other thing that's interesting in this game, which is that there is a progression of time where initially you're going to seed out these workers or people on the stations, and they're going to move along bus routes to locations. But then from those locations, we'll go to other locations. So the map is very dynamic in that respect. And there is an order of operations as to where they're going to go. But one of the things that you can do, which is the wacky part of this game that doesn't really fit with the theme, is you can stop time so that instead of going from work to home, they're now staying at work. And the action selection I find exceptionally interesting. If anyone's played Dominant Species, it's a bit like that. You're going to place out little cubes to choose actions, and then from top to bottom, they're going to be resolved. So the actions of, what do I take now, but what do I save for later? Because you only have a limited number of actions that you can take in the whole game. And you could take heaps of them in the first round, but then you're going to be down and out with not much to do, and the game's going to be over and people are just going to rocket ahead of you in points. There's really interesting ways that you can screw with other people in very creative ways, that I can put buildings on certain locations on Dana's route so that she's trying to build up this huge turn to have all these people go to work and score points. Well, you know what, Dana? On your route, just pubs now. Only pubs. And guess where people aren't going? Pub. The other thing that you can do is if 2 different buildings, or the location that someone is going to is on the same corner or intersection, they just walk across. They don't even catch the buses. So that's another really interesting way you can mess with people, by seeding out those buildings to mean that all the people that Adrian's worked so tirelessly to get on his route are now no longer moving between locations. They're just walking back and forth, doing little joy laps of the single block, moving from bar to bar or work to home or whatever it is. So it was great. Finn was an absolute agent of chaos in that game. Adrian, would you say?
Well,
I'm so glad that Finn played, because it meant that I didn't look so bad.
he would stop time, but then when you choose the action to stop time and you solidify that by putting your little cylinder on the action, there's only one player that can do that each round. But then it's a bluffing game of, are you actually even going to take the action? Because you can choose not to stop time, or you can choose to stop time. So he realized right before we ended, so the second to last round, he couldn't win. So he immediately took the stop time action space just so that he could sort of mid-max who is it going to annoy the most. And that's what he did. For his last turn, he was like, nah, I'm not going to stop time, or I am going to stop time. And then it kind of made it harder for the other players, because essentially if you've got a lot of people at the bar and they're still going to the bar, like Lauren said, you're not going to get any points, and that's crippling. But you could then try and pivot by placing out different buildings for them to travel to. However, he could choose to take the opposite effect, and then they don't go to those spaces anyway. So it is a real interesting game of sort of a little bit of bluffing in it as well for that person that's in that position with the time space. But I do love how when you place our workers, you're placing them mostly right to left, and then the person on the left who starts has the weaker of the actions, and then they get stronger as the turn order goes through. It's just really good. It's really fun. It's really interesting. It took us a little bit longer because we were sort of going through the rules and doing a bit of a teach, but you could play that game in an hour or less every time you play it, once you've played it a couple of times. I think it's fantastic. So
I thought the one interesting part of it, and I did enjoy the game. No, actually, I'm being serious. I did enjoy the game. I was super tired, but I did enjoy it. I can appreciate all the points that you're saying about it. But I actually thought, which was interesting, is that you only have a finite number of turns.
Yep.
And I wasn't paying a great deal of attention to that, and found that I was sort of out of the game, a round or two early type thing. But I think that's really an interesting part of it as well, is that you've only got a certain amount of workers and that's it.
And you constantly have to be looking at your opponents as to the pace that they're playing, because one of the end game triggers is that if there's only one person left with action markers, then the game will end. And so you can hoard and save your actions and only do the minimum 2 at a time, slowly. But if everyone else is rocketing to the finish line, you're going to be left with several actions that you didn't even get to use. And so as soon as someone else ups the pace, then you all of a sudden have to match it or slow down, vice versa.
I know that was a concern that you had for me in that game, because I had a good amount of actions left. However, the timing on the game is very hard to hit when you want to get some of these points and some of these people along these routes. And I was very lucky enough to be second to last and not doing very well. But in the last round, I was able to flood out and get a lot of value out of my last few actions, because I knew the game was ending because everyone else was running out of their cylinders as well, their action cylinders. I was able to get back to being joint second with you, but you won because you had taken one of the time stones. Basically, that's what it is. It's like it's one of the resources you take when you do the time action. Lauren had one of those, and that was a decider for. Didn't
MJ win?
For second place.
MJ won. Yeah.
I was going to say MJ won,
but we were joint second, and it was for second place, so we were vying for second place.
Yeah,
no, it was really good. I really enjoyed it.
Yeah.
It was lovely to play it again.
And you're right; it's so snappy that you could play it in easy under an hour, which is another benefit that it has maybe over some other Splotter offerings, which can take 3 hours. And that's the case even at 5 players. I will say the times Dana took first player and then I was last. Player order in that game is so critical, especially at the full 5 players. And going last is the pits, because so much of the action selection is thinking, do I have to take this now, or can I wait and take something else instead, because it's still going to be available when it comes back around to me, like stopping time, or will there still be enough, spaces on the passenger spot that I can go and add people to the board. Just a lovely Splotter offering. And the good thing about it now is it wasn't available for the longest time, but they've done a reprint. Is it the complete edition or the collector's edition, something like that? So you can go and pick this game up, which is great. Awesome. It's in a svelte little box, really slender, and which is a big deal for me because I'm all about real estate on my shelves. But I really, really enjoyed Bus. I think it probably sits still below Horseless Carriage, but I would say it's number 3 for me in terms of Splotter's offerings. Yep, so that's a Bus from Splotter.
Thanks for that, Lauren. So now we have some announcements and news. And of course, we always talk every week about PlayCon and how excited we are from the 11th to the 13th of July 2025. Tickets are on sale at play-con.com. Adrian, do you have any updates for PlayCon?
Not especially. I can say that we won't be talking about it for very much longer because it will be sold out before we even know it. So there is that. I would definitely advise if you're thinking about going, grabbing your ticket and not waiting because, yeah, we are starting to get into the point of starting to make some announcements about ticket numbers and things like that. And I don't want some people who have thought about waiting to potentially miss out. So, yeah, we say it all the time. And I know it sounds like a sales pitch, and guess what? It is a bit of one. However, it will sell out, and that is when people are on the wait list. And last year, we had an astronomical amount of people on the wait list. We had enough people on the wait list to almost do another PlayCon. Let's just put it that way. So let's just not have that happen to the community that listens to this podcast.
Also, we have the next Brisbane Game Day already planned. So that's going to be on the 1st of March 2025 at the same venue. Tickets aren't available yet, but just we thought we'd mention it as a save the date. So last week's question of the pod was, what's the best board game with animals and what makes it the best? So Lauren, would you mind reading the Facebook comments?
Sure. We've got Tegan Smith who said Reef Encounter, a fabulous tile-laying game that seems like it's about reef ecosystems, parrotfish eating coral inhabited by algae and shrimp, but is actually a cutthroat economic speculation and manipulation game in disguise. Plus, it has little shrimp meeples I like to call shrimples. I glued tiny googly eyes on mine, and they're adorable. That's amazing. I do want to try that game. Craig Smerton says Raptor. It is so much fun playing the mother raptor when she ruthlessly slaughters the humans trying to capture her babies. That's unmatched, right?
No, there's a game called Raptor. It's like a two-player game.
I'm saying, isn't that the game that they've re-implemented or like based unmatched off? Was that
possibly?
Old game,
Yeah,
Raptor?
it's very similar looking. So I wouldn't be surprised.
I'm pretty sure that's the case. And Daniel Hogan said, the answer is Wingspan, and if anyone says otherwise, I shall put my fingers in my ears and yell, la 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 la. Well, it's Daniel, get ready to plug those ear holes because the correct answer is animal upon animal. And Ashley Perryman says, my answer is Agricola. Why? Because it was groundbreaking and remains a timeless classic. It is brutally competitive and unforgiving. Every decision matters. Every action matters. Every resource matters. It's tight, lean, mean, rewards good decisions / good play, but nothing is ever certain. That is a great description of Agricola. That is a great game.
Okay, 80, will you read the rest?
So we had the Well-Being Gamer from Instagram say Kavango all day long. Have you played Kavango? I've never heard of it.
No, what's that?
I have. I've actually got it on my shelf. It was a Kickstarter.
Oh, okay.
Recent Kickstarter. Yeah.
Cool.
The conservation message that plays throughout is awesome, plus the art. And then we had Connor Devine. Oh. God. Oh. I'm not going to read that out. Let's go skip that one. No, we won't skip old Con. He said, I forgot to mention harmonies on the podcast. Love that game and trying to balance getting the animals to come with the landscape scoring.
Dana loves harmonies so much that during her in-person game of Mini Express with us, she was playing games of harmonies solo on Board Game Arena simultaneously.
I'm sorry.
Had to get your fix.
Afterwards, I thought that was very rude of me.
No, it was hilarious.
I just couldn't help it. And when I got home, before I fell asleep on the couch, I was playing it again. I just can't stop playing it. I'm addicted to it.
It's very well implemented on Board Game Arena.
100%. So good. We also had on Discord, Jana say, I like Everdell. The cute and wholesome vibe is amazing, but the game can be really cutthroat with planning and work management. The game is very addictive, and the tree prop is also welcome. I agree. That tree is cool, how you slide the cards in. It holds the big stack of cards. I kind of like that rather than just having a big stack of cards on the table that get knocked off, especially if they're sleeved because they slide all over the place. So aside from Everdell, Kingdom Death is great. Not sure if you would count those monsters animals, though. I think so. There's a lion in it. There's a phoenix. We'll give that.
They're not human, so yeah.
Yeah, they're barely human. We also have Eric from Aftergame. He said, "Ooh, the best is tough, but I love Hive as quick, simple, yet highly strategic game. The insect theme works perfectly with the mechanics of that game."
Have you guys got any faves, just quickly?
I said the rat catcher because I love those little rat meeples.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, I read. Yeah. They're pretty cute.
I said animal upon animal only because if you're talking about the animal making the game, that's the whole thing, the different weird grooves and weird shapes and how they kind of sit in together in such a satisfying way. But if I was to say, my favorite game that had animals, it'll probably be a Euro.
I would have to say for me, because this is like my number one theme, is probably Meadow, just because the artwork, I find myself just admiring the artwork with every card that I play, and I just love that game. My second one would be Creature Comforts. That game is just, I'm going to use your term, Lauren, drop dead gorgeous. It is just drop dead gorgeous. And the other one would, of course, be Harmonies. Oh, my God. I can't stop playing it. I'm an addict. But, yeah, so our new question of the pod, though, is this comes from my play of Grove as I sit there half watching the telly, half playing a game. What games can you play on your coffee table? Adrian, what can you play on your coffee table?
I mean, to be honest, I just don't do it. If I'm honest, for me, it's just not a thing. But I have played Cafe on my coffee table because it's so playable solo. Like, you don't need a massive space. I think if you're playing at 3 or 4 players, it's not going to go well because you do need a bit more table space when you start adding more players. But yeah, I don't mix. Do you know what I mean? Like, I'm a bit structured for my board gaming. I'm like, I have to sit in my game room on my game table. It's like a very rarity that I would, if I'm watching the telly, I kind of watch a movie, so I'm kind of in, so I'm not as much on my phone and stuff. But I can see the appeal, and I can see a lot of people do it. Like, a lot of people sit there with music on or the TV on. And I know actually people that play on their coffee table but listen to vinyls, and they put a vinyl record on and they really like that sound. Do you know what I mean? Because vinyl has a very distinctive sound and a nice ambience to it. So, yeah, I know people that do that as well. So I'd like to hear what the community have to say, for sure.
What about you, Lauren?
Button shy games every day of the week. Those things, just small real estate, tiny dinky wallets. Some of them even play the palm of your hand. Food Chain Island and Numpsters have been my favorites as of late, but there's a own a stack. So yeah, those would be my go-to. The 9-card series that you mentioned, Dana, Orchid, Grove, and Forage, although I'm absolutely trash at them, can't seem to win. But those kinds of little games, have 18 or less cards are typically my go-tos.
I actually will say that you probably think it's strange to play games on a coffee table, maybe with the television on. But the main reason why I actually play games there is because my game room is sort of separate. It's a completely sort of separate room. And my kids are out in the lounge room, and I actually like being with them, even if I'm not watching the same thing as them, because generally they're watching something completely, I'm disinterested in it. I like to be with them. So I'll play that on the coffee table and they'll be watching something on the television. And so it's more about just being with other people. I just feel lonely doing it in my game room. So that's one reason why I do that. But yeah, we'd love to hear about what games you can play on your coffee table. So if you'd like to support this podcast, you can always go to patreon.com/boardgamebarbecue, and you can get access to exclusive podcast episodes that we record just for our Patreons. If you don't want to support us on Patreon, you can always support us without donating. And the easiest way is to tell people about the podcast. You can go to Apple Podcasts as well and leave a 5-star rating or a review for us, or even on Spotify with their new rating system. We'd love you to get involved in the Board Game Barbecue community on Facebook and also on X, Instagram, or even YouTube. We'd love you to make a comment and join in on our questions that we ask throughout the week. And, of course, there's always Discord. I keep trying to plug Discord, trying to get new people onto Discord because it's such a wonderful device for getting to know other gamers.
Just a quick one there before we move on. I would just like to say, like on that note, the people that share the game days and stuff with other friends and let them be aware of these events and stuff, we really appreciate that. I'm just going to do a shout out for a name because I think it's really cool, but David Walsh seemed to have brought like 10 friends. It felt like 10 friends. It was very cool to see at the game day people that hadn't been to our game days, but I'd seen them at other events sort of dip their toes into our event and just have a blast and say what a great time that they had, which was really cool to see. And yeah, we just really appreciate that kind of stuff, like people getting together, because it's about getting together and playing games together and having fun. So, yeah.
So now we have our segment, our fired up segment.
Oh, mate.
What are you fired up about, Lauren? I'm looking at you. You look completely like overwhelmed with excitement. What is it? What are you fired up about?
You betcha. I'm fired up for holiday games, for stocking stuffers. I've got a few Christmas parties lined up, Hanukkah parties lined up, so on and so forth. And I'm really excited for all of the games that I'm going to get to crack out at those. We're talking monikers. We'll try landmarks, although it's inferior to Codenames.
You're going to keep mentioning that, aren't you?
Oh, absolutely. I will die on this Seven Wonders Architects and Codenames Hill. We're going to play Blockbuster, which I sizzled recently. So I'm really just excited for the kinds of games, telestrations that I can just play in really big groups that I don't always get the opportunity to play as much with, 10 people. So yeah, that will be a blast. Maybe Cheers to the Governor as well, which Chris Torquium taught me at the most recent Sydney game day. So yeah, just really excited to play big old party games. 'Tis the season to be jolly and whatnot.
What about you, Adrian?
My list is so long, so strap in. Okay, I got the last few episodes of Arcane coming up. I am binge watching them while I'm doing my gym. Like I've got a little running machine. I put my phone on there, and as much as I run is as much as I'm allowed to watch, which I've found really inspiring. I've also got the Harry Potter Hogwarts Battle Monsters expansion that we're going to play when my mum arrives. So we're going to play that with Finn, MJ, me, and my mum. Super excited about that. Tomorrow, Finn and I are going to play one of the new maps, the new Age of Steam map sets. We're going to play Death Valley, which is apparently one of the harshest terrains on Earth. And Finn is really into geology and earths and minerals and rocks and all this other stuff. So for him, when we read out the description of it, he's like, we're playing that one. That's the one we're going to play. So I'm super excited to play that. Man, I got a bunch of other random stuff happening in my life that I'm super excited for. And yeah, that's just it. I mean, my mum's arriving. There's excitement for that. I'm going to teach my mum Barrage, which is pretty cool because last time she came out here, we didn't play that. It was just one that we never played. Playing Teotihuacan, which is my mum's favorite game with me, my mum, and Finn will be great because there's 3 of us. That's like 3 generations of people playing my mum's number 1 game. Super excited about that. Yeah, just loads of cool stuff for the next few weeks. Like Lauren said, it's a season to be jolly. So,
how many mums can you play like Teotihuacan with? I mean,
it's pretty amazing.
4 players.
No,
but 3 other mums.
I'm not talking about that. But I mean, like, not many mums play that. Like,
you do, and you're a mum.
No, I know, but I can't play it with my own mum. There's
okay,
no
true.
way.
She's fair enough.
Verging on going to a home. Like, there's no way. Yeah. So no, not in reality, but yeah. Oh, that's awesome that you can play that with your mum.
Yeah, that'll be kind of cool. It'll be fun, and even like, as far as things go, like even on Boxing Day, just like once everyone's eaten, like clearing the table. I know this is a very long way away, but man, I'm excited for Boxing Day. But, clearing the table and just getting monikers out and just everyone that wants in is in, and we just play it together as a big group. Like Lauren said, that's going to be great. Yeah, it's going to be really fun. I'm really looking forward to the next couple of months of gaming and fun, holidays and life. So.
Well, this sounds a bit boring, but I'm also looking forward to holidays. So I am going away this coming weekend, heading up north to a place called Burnet Heads, which is near Bundaberg. And we have been there a few times, and it's sort of like our...
You say we. Who's the we?
Oh, sorry, me and my family. So my husband, Ben, and my 3 children. And we are heading up there. It's sort of like become our happy place, really, to the point where my husband had it tattooed on his arm recently. So it must be good. And I have sort of pledged, and I'm not sure how successful I'll be, but I've pledged to have some time away from Facebook. I really need to sort of try and have unplug, I think. And I've got a few games lined up, and I've told the kids and the family about them, and they seem very excited about it. But I'm really looking forward to that, and I'm looking forward to... We are going on a day flight in a light aircraft over to Lady Elliot Island. So, and we'll be able to see the turtles nesting, and man, it's going to be
I can see that stuff on YouTube. There's no way in hell I'm getting one of them little planes.
You know what? It's so cool.
Oh, God, no.
We've done it before, but the plane goes and drives around the runway, because the runway to go there is literally just a grass runway in the middle of the bush. And you have to go and do a little lap first just to get the kangaroos off the runway. Nice. It's cool. So Aussie. It's like quintessential Aussie. It's really cool. Yeah.
I remember when I was in New Zealand, I had to, for a random job that I did when I first got there as a backpacker and stuff to get some cash, I had to drive a holiday van 9 hours through the mountains to someone who had their holiday van broken down, right? So it broken down. This was like a replacement van for them, and I had to get the plane back. And when I got to the airport for my return flight, I'm not kidding when I said it was a glorified tin shed that you'd put the cattle in. And then and the guy goes, "Oh yeah, your plane's around here." And I walked around the corner and saw this tiny plane that sat 10 people. And I was like, "No, where's my plane? The one that I'm getting on." And that ride was terrible. It was so much turbulence. It was going up and down. There was a storm. The pilot, there was buzzing and beeping in the cockpit. I am never going on a tiny plane ever again. I will walk. I would rather walk. So, yeah.
It's quite funny when you have to get weighed and you get on the plane and then the pilot says, no, can you move over that side?
Yes, they did. I hated that bit. I'm not doing that. I'm cool with not doing that ever again. And it doesn't help that my first experience with that was terrifying. Do you know what I mean? Terrifying. There's rain smashing on the windows, thunder and lightning. There's turbulence over the place. There's whoop, 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 noises coming to the airport. The guy's clicking buttons left, right, and center like he's playing Dance Dance Revolution with his hand. I was like, "Get me out of here, please." And I'm not even really religious, but I kind of prayed. I was like, "Something has to fix this, please. I just want to land, please." Yeah. Oh, it was horrible. Yeah.
That's so funny.
Yeah, there we go.
Yeah. So anyway, I'm looking forward to that.
Yeah.
Good luck.
You've certainly made me think about a few things that I wasn't thinking about before. Thank you.
I'll do it again and play a real life LARP game of Sky Team. Just we're in it together. We're going to land this plane.
Yeah.
Oh, Lord. Anyway, it was great to talk to you guys today. And it was, you know what? It was really lovely spending time with you over the weekend. And thank you, Lauren, for coming to the Brisbane Game Day. We were certainly it was certainly better with your presence. So,
Dana, always a pleasure. 80, absolute blast. Thanks for having me, guys.
Yeah. See ya.
See ya.
Bye.